Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Monday, the 17th day of January, 2022. Well, okay, so grandson number two was born Thursday in the midnight hour, and he's just wonderful. That was on the 13th. Now, his older sister was born on the 13th. I was born on the 13th, both other months, though, than that. But so three of us have been born on the 13th. Now, the brother, the second grandchild, now he was born on the 31st of the same month as the first one. So he had 13 and 3 1, 1 3 and 3 1. So it was just, an anagram. So anyway, so for the day itself, they each have the same numerology. Not overall, but for the day itself, they each have the same numerology of 4. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, I kind of interpret that as them being my son and daughter-in-law's foundation in life, and for sure that's exactly what they are. So anyway, I started this once and it froze up on me, so I went ahead and rebooted the computer, but I had already taken a look at some notes here, and I'll go over them with you really quick about some upcoming stuff and where we are right now astrologically, and I had already taken the runes, so we'll talk about that. And then we'll go ahead and look at the geomancy rune, the below part of As Above, So Below. The Elder Futhark rune is going to represent the above part. So anyhow, tonight, 3:48 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we have the full wolf moon. I can't say that very well. Currently, the sun's in Capricorn until Thursday when it transitions into Aquarius. But tonight, the moon is in Cancer during the full moon itself. When it switches when that becomes full at 3:48 p.m. But then at 8:03 p.m. it's going to transition into Leo. So if you don't go out until after that, till later on in the evening, it'll already be in Leo. But I just always like those transitionary type of experiences, though. So anyway, you can think about how that impacts you. Let's see, the newsletter went out today instead of yesterday because I wasn't here. And so anyway, it went out. So apologies. This stuff went up on Medium also today instead of yesterday because I wasn't here. Well, I got home yesterday, late or early evening, but I was so tired I could hardly see, let alone do anything computer-wise. So anyway. But yesterday morning, I published something called Cause and Effect over on the blog. So if you want to take a look at that, that's cool. The address over there it's underneath the video under Show More. But if not, it's I'm steppingaside.com. I am steppingaside.com. Not I am, but I am. Anyhow, again, the link's below the video, so just click on Show More and you'll see that there if you're not familiar with that. Always click on the Show More under videos because you never know what's there. There could be all kinds of things, some reference material that you can check out, depending on what the video is about. There could be web addresses of if it's a interview type show of the guests that are on. All kinds of things are under there. So if you're not familiar with YouTube, now you know a little something more about it. Anyway. That's enough of that. Moving on to the rune for today, we have I Was, which is an As Above, So Below rune, definitely. It's Lagus, but it's not Lagus forward and reversed, because if you switch it around, it's the same direction, isn't it? So it's a circular fashion. It's like the spiral vortex into form, of spirit into form, basically. It's the link between realms. It's about protection. But it's basically flowing in spirit to one another, from higher self-awareness into physical reality. So let's go ahead and take a look at the geomancy rune for today and see what the below aspect is. Let's see, we've got, oh, okay. We've got some scattered little boy energy with Pur. Its complement is Puella or Puella. That's the little girl energy. This is lack of impulse control. Just little boy energy. I had two boys. They were great kids. Didn't get in trouble, really. I mean, not anything to speak of, but any more than little boys do, But they tend to maybe take risks that they shouldn't take because they don't know any better, right? they get excited about doing so. So it's that kind of energy. So there might be some lack of impulse control today that we need higher self to inform and to maybe smooth out that energy and just be aware that the way through that is invoking spirit and seeing it from a reserved standpoint, where you can look at the whole thing and say, yeah, maybe I'm doing something that is just not in my best interest. So maybe I need to just step back a moment and see before I go any further. So that's kind of, I think, what this is about. But let's take a look at the cards. And for those of you who have never been here before, welcome. Thank you so much for coming by. It's when you become a grandparent again for the third time. It's exhilarating and exhausting and just a miracle. It's just a miracle. So that's my mindset today, is miracle mindset, because I got to be with those precious children. So that was just, they're like, oh, we can never repay you. It's like, you know what? We can't repay you, because we got to be with them and all night long for several days. And so from Tuesday night through Sunday, you know, so that's the true blessing, not anything we did for them. So they don't need to even think that way. Not at all. As I'm sure every grandparent watching knows. So anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the cards. I'm going to do 3. If we need more, we'll take them. But if not, we'll see where this takes us. Well, we've got one card from the Major Arcana, the Moon. So that's going to be card 18. That's a 9 energy. So, I mean, the Moon is about deception. It's about the unconscious or subconscious. It's trying to see. The Moon also, in a sense, mirrors back things what you perceive others as being this and that. You're really mirroring back issues you have to yourself, with yourself sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes it can be that. It's all about also balancing dark with dark with light, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. Then we have the 4 of Swords. So there we're resting our mind. We're letting our thoughts and perceptions come to a rest so that we can consider things. Again, you know, that could really align well with the balancing of Laguz with Pur today, where you're letting things flow from spirit and you're not giving into the ego's reaction and the lack of impulse control. You're thinking things through a little better. And then the 10 of Wands, Swords is the air element. So that's our mental faculties. That's intelligence. It's communication. It's justice. It's fairness. It's balance. It's cutting through the nonsense. Whereas Wands is going to be the fire element. So that's expression of will and creativity. And it would be something like you're getting a new job or something like that. That it could apply to that as well. So, and that's the 10. So you're looking at a 1 energy of new beginnings and wholeness and unity and independence. So let's take a look at first the Moon. We see the Moon looking down on 2 dogs barking. We see a lobster coming out of the pool onto a pathway that winds up into the mountains there. We see 2 towers, one on either side. Anytime you see 2 of anything, like 2 trees or maybe 2 rock faces, or where you've got a pathway in between maybe, or something that's on either side. Let me think what else. Oh, like if you had 2 pillars or something like that. Anything that's 2, you're looking at an issue of polarity or balance or decisions, something like that, an either or type of a thing. And here we're balancing dark with light in a fashion that here, since a lobster sheds its skin, it's thought to represent regeneration and rebirth. So here, I think that the Moon is mirroring back on this full moon day things that maybe we don't want to think about ourselves, that we'd maybe take for granted, the deception within maybe. And if we start looking at the impact of ego on our lives, are we responding? Are we reacting? Or are we stepping back and taking a broader look at things and to understand the greater picture of what's going on? That's kind of what the moon, among the things that the moon represents. But deception, and I think that is one big factor in the moon. How are we deceiving ourselves? Are we, here's the thing, when we react and we don't, we do it, and we do it at the sake of full understanding of what we're reacting to a lot of the time. Someone might catalyze that in us, some charismatic individual we respond to, and it's like, oh, he speaks to us or she speaks to us or whatever. And I feel that so intensely, and it's like you give up all autonomy at that point, right? Over to that individual and the effect that that individual has on you. So you might think about that. How you see, that's just an example. I'm not saying that there's necessarily a catalytic person in your life doing that. I'm just saying that you can see that interchange where you're so caught up in something that you can't see the forest for the trees. And it might work out fine, but it may not. And so having some clarity, understanding the difference between an ego expression and one that is invoking higher self, invoking the soul, invoking the spirit, that then guides your path forward, because spirit sees all, right? Well, that side of self does. If you can step back from the moment long enough to consider all sides of the issue. That's the other thing here. Kind of lends itself to reading my post cause and effect, because in a sense, that's you could say that the dogs represent that, you know. But I think here it's more about perception, really. And where are you getting it? Are you getting it from the shadow side of self or the spirit side of self? And the idea is, even though the pathway is windy and the mountains indicate challenges ahead, you can do it. You can find that inner balance and maybe begin to perceive things with more realism. Now, how do we begin to do that? We're going to balance intellect with will, basically, with intellect with this card and will with the Ten of Wands. We'll get to that one, though, in a minute, though. Let's see. Here we have a knight who's sleeping. It's like I have royalty in my family, and you'll see their crypts, and they often look like this, where the person, of course, the bones are inside, the skeleton's inside, but on the top you have a replica of them done in concrete or whatever they used in masonry. They sculpt it and they put it on top. Well, that's kind of what this reminds you of. But what this is saying is that we're allowing our mind to come to a rest, since we see the stained glass, which may or may not indicate, well, I think it does. I think it indicates the church or higher self, we'll say. The church doesn't always reflect higher self, but in this case, we'll say that it does. And so you want to have in other words, the swords are coming down this way, pointing toward physical reality, while the other one denotes balance, maybe we could say that. But here we have spirit informing the mental process of the knight who's laying there, trying to gain some perspective away from the noise, away from all of the chaos that maybe even his own mind is causing. Maybe too much reaction is happening. And he needs to step back and say, okay, what's really going on here? What do I really need to be looking at? How do I need to see this? Am I reacting when I should really just be observing, to get a better picture of what's going on? And maybe I'm getting caught up in something that isn't real or isn't realistic, or maybe reflects the agenda of somebody else instead of, I don't know where my fan went. It reflects the agenda of somebody else, but not my own agenda. And so anyhow, that's one way to dealing with the deception inside, and finding that balance between the shadow side of self and spirit. Now, this can be viewed a couple of different ways. You see a man carrying a bunch of staffs. So on the one hand, you can say he's carrying a heavy burden. But we have the numerology of 1 up here. 10 reduces to 1. You can look at it as a 10 as well. But it implies new beginnings, going on to something new. Leadership, independence. You see possibly his home back here. But you see the line of demarcation right here? That's how I see these double lines in tarot. That it's a line of demarcation. This is now, this is the future maybe. Or this is then and this is now. But there's a feeling of I'm going to build something for the future here. So I'm going to gather my will together. I'm going to look at things independently and come to some kind of a better understanding of the entire picture. I also look at this as trusting the process. Well, you can't do that if it's ego based. It has to be from spirit in order to trust the process. Again, we're looking at I was here in terms of the rune, where you're getting that link, you're linking spirit into your awareness in physical reality. Instead of allowing the personality or ego to run amok, spirit is controlling that energetic experience for us here, instead of, again, the ego. So here, you're going to be trusting spirit to guide your path. You don't need to see where you're going because he knows where he's going. He doesn't need to, have full view. He knows the direction he's now headed. And he's willing, if you want to incorporate the idea of heavy burden, you can do that. But he's going to gather his will about him. He's going to gather his creativity about him. He's going to gather that spark of vitality within and proceed on in a way that trusts higher self to guide his path. And he did that by coming to terms with the perceptions within. Are they simply a reflection of reaction? Or where in truth you have somebody else, because when you do that, somebody or the external circumstances around you are driving your reaction. So in a sense, they're controlling it. You might think you're in control, but if you don't take that pause, which is what's happening here in the 4, if you don't take that moment to really, take a look at the whole picture to be certain that this is indeed the path you need to be on at that moment, you're going to find yourself in some spot where it's like, ooh, how'd I get here? So I think that I guess that's the whole point of the idea when we let the shadow side of self promote everything or catalyze everything and send us in the direction that maybe if we had had a few moments to think about it, we might think better of it. Or maybe tweak how we see it just a little bit to maybe get a better outcome. It isn't that you don't respond to what's going on around you. It's that you do it with higher self-awareness so that you're sure that you understand the full picture of everything. Because sometimes the best response is no response, to not get involved at all. There's no reason to contribute to something that is deceptive in nature. You see what I'm saying? So I think that we really, with poor, what we're looking at here again is scattered little boy energy. So this isn't anything that is, so severe that it might, send you off a cliff, metaphorically. But at the same time, you're not staying in control. You're not being the adult in your own life, basically. If you're always letting your ego respond to everything that's going on. It just reminds me of a lot of the conversation that's happening these days, irrespective of what it's about. Everybody just jumps in and says, oh, it's this, or oh, it's that, or nobody's doing this, or nobody's doing that. And I sit there and say, well, how do you know? How do you know? You're not there. You see something on the surface and you draw a conclusion about it. But what if you're wrong? What if all kinds of things are happening under the surface, behind the scenes, that you don't know about? What if? You don't know. And that's the kind of experience I'm talking about. And that's when ego governs everything. Instead of being able to take an intelligent look and cut through the nonsense, again, with the swords, right? With the suit of swords, that particular thing reflects the air element, getting to the truth of something. Aligning yourself in spirit, giving yourself a chance to step back and be calm and think about something rationally. Does it really make sense to you? Or are you simply because in this time of manufactured outrage, it's how can I get you to come to my website? How can I get you to watch my YouTube channel? How can I get you to watch my news program? How can I get you to listen to my speech at a rally? I'm going to be as outrageous as I can, and it's going to draw everybody in and get everybody upset for nothing, for a lie, for deception. That's where we are right now. I suspect the cards are suggesting, now just wait a minute. Why don't you not go to that rally? Why don't you turn off the news? Why don't you turn off everything and just sit and think about it? Does it really make sense? Or do you need to look further? Do you need to research a little more? Do you need to get some more information? Are people telling you lies are happening when in fact they're not? Don't believe science when you should, in other words. I mean, the most obvious one is, oh, don't believe the CDC. Well, yeah, believe the CDC. When they tell you what the virus is all about, they're telling you the truth as they know it at that moment. Now, they continue to research as more symptoms come in and long-term effects are known. Some of that might change a little, but it doesn't mean they lied to you. It just means that it's an ongoing process, and thank goodness that it is. We think one thing, and now all of a sudden, oh, now this new factor's been introduced. Would you not want them to tell you? I would. Can you not understand the bigger picture of that? Or are you being drawn in by someone who's, oh, the outrage of it all? You see what I'm saying? Figure out how to balance the shadow side of self with spirit. Find your space to sit back and take a look at what's really going on. And then accept responsibility for yourself and move forward, trusting in the moment that you see the bigger picture, you understand the truth from fiction, you understand if you've been duped, and you can now take a new path, trusting that you know what's really happening. So anyhow, again, this is about dealing with letting spirit inform how you see things versus ego and this manufactured outrage that seems to be driving the conversation these days. It has to stop. And I think that today's reading is just suggesting that this may be one way to try to make that happen. So if that's happening in your life, then this is for you. If it's not, then take heart and come back on Thursday and see what other trouble we can get into here. So anyway, thanks for watching. And if you have grandchildren, call them up or go see them and hold them close. Tell them you love them. They'll appreciate you more than you could ever know. Anyway, thanks for watching, you guys. And click subscribe again if you haven't. I'd love you to do that. And come back and join our little tarot and rune family as we explore how all of this can just give us ideas to think about and hopefully make us understand our lives a little bit better and the choices that we make and to take back the control of who we are and who we really are as spirit inhabiting these bodies for just a short period of time where we're here to learn and to grow and to help others learn and grow. So anyhow, that's it. Have a good day. We'll talk again on Thursday. So be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.